Hello everyone, my name is Heather and this is Heather Travels. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Throughout this video, I'm going to link a few other videos that I've made over the past year, basically, up here in the top corner for you to have links to some of the relevant videos that I've already made on this same topic that sort of relate to what I'm going to talk to you about today. In today's video, I want to talk about the realities of how traveling has changed, at least for me personally, in 2020. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you the 5 main ways that traveling has changed for me in 2020. I do want to preface this by saying that I would definitely say that all of these changes, unfortunately, are negative changes. I really am struggling to find positive changes to travel. And for the most part, I think that these changes are going to be true of everyone, no matter what your situation is, especially if you live in the United States of America. Now, it's possible that they might be a little bit different for you, but for me personally, these are the 5 changes have been the most noticeable. If your experience has been different, if you found that some of these are not a problem for you, or you have something else that's come up that has been more problematic than the 5 I listed here, please share those with me in the comments down below. The number one way that travel has changed in 2020 is that we cannot go where we want to go. This is especially true for citizens of the United States like myself. I'm really very sad about this because in the short term, we had a number of trips that got canceled. One was pretty major. It was Megan's French trip that she was going to go on with her French teacher and some other students from her high school. She was supposed to go to Switzerland and France in June of 2020, and that trip was canceled. Because of the pandemic, Americans currently cannot travel to Europe, so that trip didn't happen. It is rescheduled for next June, but I have strong reservations about whether it'll happen then either. Also, we had several different cruises booked. One was in June, where the boys and I were going to go on a cruise while Megan was in France and Switzerland. That didn't happen. We had 2 Disney cruises booked, both of which I've canceled because they were actually both scheduled for 2021. However, I ended up canceling them. First of all, because I wanted to wait and see what is actually really going to happen with cruising out of the United States, because as of now, it still isn't going. So until it actually starts going again and we see what actually happens with it, I just don't see the point of booking a cruise. And then the other thing is when they announced all the health protocols, I've said this in previous videos, I was totally fine with all of the health protocols. I have major issues with them requiring testing. And the reason I'm not comfortable with the testing requirement, well, I have multiple reasons. First of all, I feel that the testing is too unreliable. Secondly, I believe that in the United States, because of the way things work here and because the cruise lines aren't really giving more specific information, I feel that it sounds like they're going to expect people to be responsible for getting the test themselves. And particularly where we live in Wisconsin, which even though it's one of the worst states in the nation for the virus right now, you can't get a test here unless you have symptoms. So I don't know how they're going to overcome that. And then cost is going to be a major issue for people. For example, it was Ben and David, I think. It cost $250 per person for them to get a test for travel purposes. And that's in a country with, the national healthcare system, which we don't have in the United States. So I was kind of surprised about that. I guess I was and I wasn't. But think about that. For my family, if the 4 of us went on a cruise, that's going to add an additional $1,000 to the price of our cruise. You could go on a whole nother cruise for that. So that's going to be a major logistical and financial obstacle, I think, for people. We just personally do not want to have that test. We're very, very afraid of the test itself. We think it's going to be awful. And then the other thing that I'm very concerned of, seeing the behavior of a large number of Americans, is that because they have that test, when they get on the cruise ship, they're going to be like all lackadaisical about the other health protocols, specifically mask wearing and physically distancing themselves from other people, because I've seen that in person too many times. And I have yet to have any evidence to show me that the cruise lines are actually going to enforce those protocols. So all of that makes me very unhappy about the testing requirement. So our family has basically decided that until the testing requirement is removed, we won't be taking a cruise. Okay, so things that we had planned were already canceled. And then I had kind of decided, once Megan decided that she really didn't want, that she wasn't going to go on the rescheduled France trip next year, if it even happens, that she really wanted to go to Europe with me. I really want to take my kids to Europe. And we can't go there. We can't go to Europe. And then we can't go a lot of places. We can't go to Canada. We really would like to go to Canada. There's just a lot of places we want to go that we can't go right now. And this is even true in the United States. We can't go to a bunch of states we want to go to. The whole Northeast is basically out. Even an upcoming trip that I had been counting down the days to and was really excited about, I had all planned. It was going to be another big road trip, and then I was going to make additional reservations for something and discovered that one of the major places we were going also requires a 14-day quarantine, and somehow I missed that. And so that whole trip is canceled. And I don't know what we're doing. As of the point that I'm recording this video, I have no idea if we're going to do something over Thanksgiving break now or not, because that completely messed up my plans. And I was really disappointed about that. And I'm going to come back to that issue in another point. But anyway, so basically we can't go where we want to go. And this extends down to even like things you'd want to do in the places you want to go. I mean, big cities as a general rule are probably not a good idea because of the number of people. And then even when you do go places, a lot of things are closed. I guess one of the most successful reopenings has been like Walt Disney World or even like national parks. But even at places that are reopened, a lot of the things at the places are not open. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that. So even if you go to Disney World, your favorite restaurant might not be open. There's no fireworks. There's no shows. There's no parades. Some of the Disney Resort hotels are not open. So even if you can go to a place, you might not be able to do the things there that you wanted to do. Like one of the things I was thinking about was, okay, we can't go on a cruise. Let's go now. This would be a good time to go stay on the Queen Mary in Long Beach. It's closed. Lots of museums are closed. The theme parks around us, like Valley Fair, our closest theme park in Minnesota, did not open at all in 2020. You can't go where you want to go. That's a big thing. It's the biggest thing in my mind as far as how traveling is different in 2020 is we cannot go where we want to go. And the part that's making that especially hard is we have no idea when we'll be able to go to the places we want to go. And that's making me very sad because my time with my kids is short. And my time where they're still with me I'm running out. And I wanted to do so many more things with them while I still had them home with me. I'm scared now that I'm not going to be able to because we can't go where we want to go. The second way that travel has changed for me in 2020 is the mode of transportation has changed. And I guess specifically I'm talking about basically, if you want to be safe, really the only way you should travel is in your own car. And again, this limits me to the United States, which I can't really leave the United States anyway, but we took 3 road trips this past summer, in the summer of 2020. We drove to Mackinac Island, we drove to St. Ignace and then took a ferry to Mackinac Island. We drove to Wisconsin Dells. Now that's not anything unusual for us, and that's only about 2+ hours away. But driving to Mackinac Island, that was a pretty big haul for me. I mean, that was a full long day of driving. 7, 8, 9 hours of driving. And then that big trip that we took to Colorado at the end of August, that was more driving than I've ever done by myself on a road trip where I'm the only one driving ever in my life. And I've pretty much decided, I mean, I had already known before that I really didn't want to do long road trips like that. And after doing that, I've pretty much decided I don't ever want to do it again. I mean, I was all gung-ho at first, like, oh, okay, well, we saw that we could do this. We could do a big road trip. Yeah, we can do it. And I made plans for other big road trips we can do. But the more time passes and the more I think about doing it again, it just makes me so tired. And it's just such a time suck. It just takes so long. The United States, if you don't live here, you don't realize it's so huge and it just takes days and days to get anywhere. And I just don't like spending that much time in the car. As my son Andrew put it, it's boring and it's an inefficient use of your time. It's not an efficient way to travel. Unfortunately, there's a lot of places in the world that you can't get to unless you're in a car. But I sure as heck would at least like to be able to fly to something closer to it and then maybe rent a car and drive to that place rather than having to drive across 16 states to get there. The other forms of transportation right now, cruising is completely unavailable to me. So that's not even an option. And then I could fly and I could take a train, but I'm very wary of both of those. Now, a new study, an experiment that they did just came out that determined that flying is actually quite safe and that it's very unlikely that you're going to contract the virus on a flight. But I've also heard the other way, so I'm still a little bit nervous about that. I think if I did fly, I would want my flight to be as short as possible. Train makes me very nervous because that's an enclosed interior space. You're breathing the air, that's a lot of people on there. People are going to be eating and taking off their masks because it covers a long period of time. So I would not feel safe or comfortable taking a train right now at all, which kind of goes back to how Ben really wanted to take an Amtrak trip, his first Amtrak trip sometime this year, and we didn't get to do that either. That goes back to not being able to go where we want to go. So the mode of transportation has definitely changed. And I guess really being able to go anywhere a long distance away has become impossible because we'd have to drive. And some of these places are just too far away for me to drive to. The third way that traveling has changed for me in 2020 is that one of the things I most enjoyed about traveling, and I talked about it in this live stream, is eating and the experience of eating out and dining and getting to try new foods and try new restaurants and have different eating experiences than we would normally have, and especially not having to cook. That is one of my favorite things about traveling. I hate cooking, if you haven't picked up on that already. And it's really become not a good thing about traveling right now. Now, this is because, this may not be true for everyone, but this is mainly because we do not feel comfortable dining inside. We did it 3 times. We ate inside restaurants twice on Mackinac Island and once in Wisconsin Dells. But since those trips, I've seen more and more articles where they have found more and more evidence that dining in a restaurant is one of the riskiest things that you can do. And for many, many people that contract the virus, one of the things that they found is it's highly likely that they contracted it when they were eating in a restaurant. So I just don't feel comfortable eating in a restaurant. And so that eliminates so many dining options. A few things that we found about why dining isn't so great with traveling anymore. Because what you're left with is either eating in your car, which isn't that fun or tidy, getting takeout and then eating it outside somewhere or at your hotel, eating outside, which is okay, but wasps, flies, the sun, it's hot, rain, and now we're going into winter. Dining outside's not going to be a real option for most places. That's a problem. And, or if you take it back to your hotel, we have found when we've gotten food from some of our favorite restaurants that do offer, to-go meals that have been doing like curbside pickup and things, the food just doesn't taste the same. It just doesn't taste as good. We've gotten from several different places and it just doesn't, I don't know if it's just because you're putting it in the packaging and then the temperature's not the same or what, but have you guys found that too? We just find that when we get the food from some of our favorite restaurants, and I'm talking like chain restaurants, Noodles, Olive Garden, Cracker Barrel, any of those where we've gotten the food to go and we've taken it back home or we've taken it to our hotel, it just doesn't taste as good as when you eat it in the restaurant. And then another problem that would be true even if you are risking it and going inside and eating is a lot of restaurants are experiencing shortages and have limitations to their menus because of the pandemic. So that's a problem too. So the whole experience of dining while traveling and having dining be one of the best things about traveling has definitely changed in 2020, and not in a good way. The fourth way that traveling has changed in 2020 is it's become basically impossible to plan far ahead. You can't make long-term travel plans. I mean, you could plan like really far ahead, like 10 years from now. Hopefully, we're going to go do this. But as far as like planning a year in advance or 6 months in advance or even 3 months in advance or even a month in advance, being able to plan well ahead of time has become very difficult, if not impossible. And one of the reasons for this is because of all the requirements and restrictions. So again, as an American, I pretty much can't leave the United States. So I've got to look at all the different states and cities and counties, and every place in the United States has different restrictions. And that's made it like a puzzle to have to solve to figure out, okay, where can I go? And like I said, I missed one that was pretty major and significant. I didn't realize they had 14-day quarantine requirement. And it was one of those ones where, like the state of New York has been doing, where it's people from certain states. People from certain states have to quarantine if they come to this place for 14 days when they get here. And who can do that? I don't know anybody who can do that. You know, you want to go on a week's vacation, but it has to become a 3-week vacation, the first 2 weeks of which you cannot leave your hotel room. I mean, that's just not practical at all. So unless you're going and you're staying in a house or you're going to visit family and you can like literally not leave their house, I don't see how anybody can practically do the 14-day quarantine thing. The 14-day quarantine requirement for those certain states, those places that are doing that, update that list of which states are on there, and it's based on your data, the state's data of the number of positive cases in their states. And so it changes every 2 weeks. Now, if there's a bright side of this, Wisconsin is doing so horribly with virus cases, and has been like basically the whole time. It's really, really bad, that we're pretty much just, we're on the list. We're always going to be on the list. I mean, I think we weren't on the list at the very, very beginning, but we've been on the list ever since. So I can pretty much just assume if they require a 14-day quarantine from people from certain states, Wisconsin's going to be one of the states. So at least I don't even have to check that because we're just always on there. But I mean, if you're one of those states that's gone on and off, you know, you might have planned to go to this place and you were in one of the states that wasn't required to quarantine when you got there. But then by the time you go to leave on your trip, now you are. So the ability to plan ahead in advance has been severely affected. One of the great things about traveling is having travel to look forward to. Studies have shown that just planning and like looking forward to a travel experience gives you just as much of a sense of happiness and emotional well-being as actually doing the traveling. And so if you can't look ahead and count down the days and, oh, in this many days we're going to go do this and have it to look forward to, it really kind of takes away a big part of the experience. I'm not a last minute traveler. I mean, I can definitely be spontaneous and do spontaneous things all the time. But for the most part, I need time. I need time to plan my travel. I need time to come up with the money and save up the money for the travel. The earlier you book stuff, you're always in an advantage the earlier you book, for price, if nothing else, and availability and things like that. And especially when so many places are restricting their attendance. How many people can come into this attraction? How many people can come to this theme park? How many people can, you know, come into this museum or whatever? When the numbers of people that can come each day are limited, you have to be able to get on that right away as soon as those dates open up. And so not being able to plan in advance is really a troublesome change to travel in 2020. The fifth way that travel has changed in 2020 is you have to become very, very flexible, and you have to be ready and able to change what you're doing at a moment's notice. And this kind of goes back with the fourth thing I said with not being able to plan far in advance, as far as like the planning part of it. But also go back and watch my video, Misadventures in Travel, where we had the scary night in South Dakota. That is an example of that, we came upon a place and a situation where we did not feel safe and comfortable because of how people were behaving with the pandemic. And so we left. And I've read a bunch of articles about that, like where you have to prepare your kids. Okay, kids, we're going to try to go to the beach today. But if when we get there, there's too many people and they're not physically distancing, we're going to leave. And you have to be prepared for that. You know, like, okay, we're going to try to go to this place today. But if it's like this, we're not going to be able to stay there. So you have to prepare yourself mentally, and you have to prepare your family for the possibility that what you thought you were going to get to do today isn't going to happen. You know, we have this trip planned to go to this place and we want to see this, this, and this. But then once we go and look online, we find out, oh, we can't go see this because it's closed. Or, oh, shoot, they were only letting in this many people and we didn't get in. We couldn't get a reservation. You know, so all those things. So you have to be extremely flexible. You have to be ready to change what you're doing at a moment's notice. You've got to have plan B, C, D, E, and F, because what you think you're going to be able to do is not necessarily what you're actually going to be able to do. So those are the 5 ways that I have most noticed that travel has changed in 2020 and how it has changed for me personally in 2020. What do you guys think? Have you noticed these things too? Has the knowledge and the awareness of these things prevented you from traveling, or just general fear about the pandemic itself? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts and also your own personal experiences. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please be sure to give me a thumbs up down below if you liked this video and if you appreciate content like this. And please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, or if you're new to this channel. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day and safe travels.